morning. My name is Jennifer Hagen. I'm actually a Lee County native. My father's family was the third to move to Cape Coral in the 50s, so I've been around for a little while, not myself personally, but my family. Good 40 years, so we'll claim 40. But we only have my 25th birthday soon, so since we're a small group, I thought we'd just do this for interpretive dance. Would everybody be okay with it? All right. Well, I do have to say, if I'm going to be upstaged by anybody, it's going to be Dr. Bill Hammond. He is the father of environmental education in the area, and he is the sole reason that I have the passion for environmental education that I do. In 4th grade, my world was completely upstaged by an experience that I had to the Mud Flats, which is the little causeway on the way to Sanibel, Captiva Island. And it was my first time being able to get out there. I mean, I grew up with a family that was active in boating and camping, so it wasn't my first time as a teacher. But it was my first time through my elementary school that I was able to get out of the classroom and actually get my hands dirty and be able to see horseshoe crabs and seahorses and all this cool, amazing stuff. And it was part of my classroom education beyond the walls. So if anybody's going to upstage me, Bill is going to do it. I'm going to give him props, and actually I was really disappointed to find out I was going against him because I want to be in that one too. So thank you for joining us. City of Bonita Springs. We, the three of us are actually contractors for the City of Bonita Springs. We work for a company called CH2ML, and we are responsible for the Community Development Department for City of Bonita. And we have been with the city since June of 2008. And when I came on board, I made it my sole mission to do what I could to get sustainability part of the culture within Bonita. And the word for me within the city is I'm very passionate. I like to, well, another word that we use in the area is a future maker. I like to kind of get things going and cause a little bit of trouble because I think this is something that's worthwhile and it's something that is pivotal, and that's why we're here today to talk about it. So I want to do a very quick, brief introduction to the path of sustainability in Bonita. I'm going to go through this really quick because I'd actually like more of the discussion this morning to involve you all. Questions, if you have any questions about any specific initiatives. I know a lot of people are very interested in what's going on downtown, as well as our recent certification that we received through the Florida Green Building Coalition. So bear with me, I'm going to go pretty quickly, but I want to give you a little synopsis and a timeline of what's been going on in Bonita since 2008, when we came on board. So again, we've been looking at Bonita. We branded the city back in about 2008 or so with the fact that we really want to capitalize on our small town charm with a big, bright future. So one of the things that we did back then was to complete this branding, and today we're looking at that through the lens of sustainable community efforts. So another thing that we really pride ourselves on is maintaining and enhancing our quality of life. So the things that I'm going to introduce very quickly today are about setting the stage for a healthy community. We do not claim to be a healthy community. What we claim to do is to set the foundation and the programming and the policy to become a healthy community with all of that in mind. So while we all want to participate and have access to things like the water, public parks, and make sure that this is a great place that we can raise our children and have our families and live and work and play and recreate in our town, it's something that we're very conscious about in the policies that we develop and the daily activities that we do in order to make this happen. So in 2009, I worked with City Council to propose a Green City program. I didn't know exactly what that was going to be, but I knew that's something that we needed. And the wonderful thing when you're in planning is if you can find something in your comprehensive plan that says you must do it, you can make it happen. So I dug around, and lo and behold, right in the vision statement of the comprehensive plan of the future land use element, it said, Bonita Springs is a green city. Well, we're done, right? No. It just gave me the fuel to make this happen. So in 2009, we started the conversation, and council jumped on board knowing that this was something that they wanted to do. In 2011, City Council, as part of their strategic planning session, addressed sustainability for the first time by implementing it throughout their vision, their mission statement, and their values. They performed what's called a SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And threads of sustainability were integrated throughout that analysis. And later it was impregnated through our strategic priorities and action register. So in 2011, out of those priorities, a sustainability strategy was presented to and adopted by City Council. It's something that we were able to bring to them, and it came under the fulfillment of the action item Objective 4, which was the quality of life enhancement measures. So at this point, the City Council said, we are now, from this day on, going to cultivate an operational culture of sustainability. And so we went forward to do that. That encompassed what we called the sustainability strategy, which for us was how we run a green government. And the components of that included things of the sort of energy optimization, transportation, land use, environment, and conservation. And these 5 elements were the categories where we are going to make the building blocks for our sustainability strategy and all of the action items that would come out of those priorities directed by City Council. What was the value for the city? Well, the value for the city is threefold. It comes down to the triple bottom line of sustainability. The first is economic. We want to make sure that what we're doing as a city not only catalyzes growth, but we achieve fiscal stability. We want to be able to maintain our fiscal responsibilities and our economic development such that we can carry on the work that we want to do and also attract businesses to the area. We wanted to attract green businesses, innovative businesses. So we really developed an economic development incentives in a department, and actually Arlene Hunter is here, and she chaired that as the director for many years, and recently got promoted to assistant city manager. So it's a promotion that we're very proud of, and now she gets to do like 5 more things that she had before. So yeah, you can talk to her about her responsibilities later. I'm sure she's happy to share. But also one of the things that we want to make sure is that the social leg of the stool is that we're looking at the health and the safety of the community. And not only the health and the safety of humans, but also the natural environment. And looking at the standard of living for ourselves and our families and our citizens. And also, what is the education level? What are the educational opportunities? And is there equal opportunity for employment? Do we have workforce housing? What is the quality of our social stratification within Bonita Springs? And it all comes back also to environmental. We want to make sure that we conserve what we have and preserve it for future generations. We want to look at our natural resources. We don't want to tap them out. We want to be able to sustain them. And we also want to make sure that we identify the air and the water quality, where are the challenges, where are the opportunities, but we want to make sure that those are preserved. And these environmental issues are not the only ones that are addressed. Again, we're looking at this as a 3-legged stool. So what does that mean? That means when you start looking at things comprehensively in regards to the natural environment, the social aspect, which here we're talking about healthy communities, and also the economic vitality of a municipality, the sustainability portion that we're all here to talk about today is the sweet spot. It is the spot in the middle where all of those overlap. And through that sustainability is the lens that we decided to start examining not only our policies, but how we operate and how we do business in Bonita. So how are we going to do that? In 2013, Council directed staff to pursue the Florida Green Building Coalition's local government criteria as a way to basically examine our sustainability efforts. Sustainability is a practice, or you can say it's a journey. It's not the destination. It's something that we do every day. Actually our past mayor, Ben Nelson, was one of my favorite speakers last year at the Sustainability Summit, because those of you that attended, he sat up on the panel and he said, okay guys, if you guys know Ben, he's pretty straightforward. But he said, if we are here at this summit in 2015 and we're now only asking what sustainability is, we've totally missed the mark. And I was like, yes. So, so this is something that we were looking at Bonita saying, okay, yeah, we believe we're green. We think we're doing green stuff. Sounds good. It's a way to market, right? It's wonderful. But unless you have a third-party verifier or you have some kind of criteria or measurement to be able to show that you're actually doing green stuff, it doesn't matter if I say I'm green, because prove it. So what we wanted to do was to use the Florida Green Building Coalition as a way to evaluate and quantify our efforts. So the FGBC assessment categories are designed specifically for municipalities. They are categorized in the way that you traditionally would categorize a government. You have everything from your administration, your planning and zoning, your building and development, human resources, parks and rec, natural resources, public works, economic development and tourism, your energy efficiency, your conservation, your fleet management, your vehicle maintenance, and they also have an area for credits that involves innovation. If you're doing something above and beyond that may not fit necessarily into those criteria for those standard departments, you can also apply for extra points within that. So my job over the past 2 years was to make this happen. And 2 years ago, it sounded like a really good idea. Now that we're done, it was awesome, but while I was living it, it was absolutely miserable. And I will say that it was not miserable because I did not learn so much, but I did not realize how much education it included to get departments to talk together, to understand the language of what this criteria involved, and also to be able to see the process, to be part of the process, and not run when I walked into the building knowing that I was going to ask them to do more stuff. And literally, sometimes I would walk into City Hall and they would run it. It was like cockroaches when you turn the lights on in the kitchen. And I started to develop a complex, but I knew it was going to, the fruits of my labor were going to happen. So after I was able to corner them all and let them know, hey, listen, and Arlene and I actually sat in an office with an individual a year or two ago, and they're like, listen, I'm doing all this work already, I'm worn out, I'm stressed out. I said, here's the deal. Let me showcase what you do. Let me make you shine, because you can get almost the most points out of all this criteria, but I want to make sure that people know what you're doing is actually green and sustainable, and let's let you shine. And when I said that, it was like they were signed up. So it worked. I mean, there was still a little bit of teeth pulling, but we won't talk about that. So in 2014, when a couple new members of our council came onto the council that we had in 2011 that had established these strategic priorities, they basically simplified some of the priorities a little bit more and updated them to reflect what was going on in some of the, the groundwork that we had done thus far. And they directed staff to now make sure that all of our work fell within 4 different priorities. The first priority is the maintain and enhance quality of life. This included things like environmental issues, include recreation, include sustainability, and different things that would go along with enhancing or maintaining quality of life. Our second priority was to revitalize downtown. If any of you have been down Bonita in the last few months or have seen the news, we have a lot of work going on in Bonita. We're improving the infrastructure to set the foundation for what we hope to be a very vibrant future downtown. And a lot of that relies on the fact that we have solid infrastructure when it comes to stormwater, when it comes to our road, when it comes to multimodal transportation, that allows this development to happen and also is attractive to developers to come to Bonita. So laying the groundwork for downtown to become a successful, desirable place to be, not only to live, but also to start your business. Number 3 was to pursue the strengthening of the city's infrastructure, not just downtown, but throughout the city. And this included, updating our infrastructure as well as adding elements such as green infrastructure, looking at how we manage stormwater, how we treat stormwater, and how we do it on the ground, and making it an asset, turning some of these stormwater, linear areas into something that could be beautiful or native landscaping, aesthetically attractive. So really allowing Mother Nature to work for us. And the fourth, was foster economic development opportunities. These included some of our economic development incentives that we have for businesses to relocate and to start and thrive in Bonita. So the next three slides, I'm going to kind of go over some of the high-level programs that we developed throughout this past 2 years, not only as part of the application, but that were also standard operating procedures that we had in Bonita, but we didn't necessarily have a way to categorize them. So through the Florida Green Building Coalition, we were able to say, hey, we do this is the name of this, and let's get it out there so people understand what we're doing. So the first thing that we looked at, of course, was our natural resources and our environment. The Florida Green Building Coalition's local green government really has a way, they start with looking at the environment and then it mushrooms out from that. So some of the things that we looked at was, conservation and preserve management. Again, wanting to address the air, water quality, and community health of the city. Looking to to prevent pollutions and do site restoration. We have a lot of infill development that's happening in Bonita, so we want to make sure that not only are we doing it right, but we're correcting what's happened in the past. Looking at connectivity and corridors, we have over 20 plus parks within Bonita. So what we'd like to do now is, now that we've established the parks, and most of them are certified as Florida-friendly landscaping or landscapes, we want to be able to connect those parks throughout the city, so that's something that we're looking at also. We want to protect our species and our ecosystems in place. We want to have, again, more green space and more recreational opportunities. We've expanded some of the parks. We're looking at expanding trail systems within the park, so that's very exciting, within the parks and throughout the city, which is very exciting. And also we have dark skies compliance, and what that means is we're looking to shield all of our lights so it's directed downwards instead of light polluting upwards. Not only is it good for us, it's also good for the natural environment and species, and you can go outside, and if it's not full of light pollution, we can look to the skies and the stars and really enjoy that aspect of our environment as well. We have a tree preservation and a tree advisory board. They look at maintaining heritage trees throughout the city. So if you are a developer that's coming in and there are several trees that are over, 20 caliber in width or girth, that they are maintained in place. And if they are not able to be saved, that you are mitigating for those, either on site somewhere. So we make sure that we maintain our trees, because our trees are our lifeline to oxygen, as well as they cool our environment and reduce the heat island effect. We have been a tree city for, I believe, over 6 years, and most recently in 2015 we developed a natural resource strategy that built on our sustainability strategy. And what that did is we really looked at all of our different ecosystems that we have in the city, the uplands, the wetlands, the rivers and the bays, the coastal and the built environment, and what policies, what programs do we have to protect those, what are we doing, and how is the sustainability strategy integrated throughout. So this information, we have a really nice handout. It's a PDF that is available on our green website for the city. I encourage you to take a look, because it talks about in detail all the policies that we have for all these ecosystems and why it's important to protect the built environment and also soften it, not only for aesthetic reasons, but also to promote, again, those connectivity, those wildlife corridors, and make it a place that you want to be. And the standards that we have for our built environment, the architectural standards, the beautification that we're doing. Most recently we did a landscape enhancements along US 41 as well as along Terry Road. So really trying to soften the hardscape of the built environment and make it more green and beautiful. So when it comes to the built environment, some of the things that we wanted to do, going back to the branding that we did back in 2008, the sense of place and the community character. We can all go to any stripville, USA, and we're going to have our Bed Bath & Beyond, we're going to have our Target, we're going to have our Chili's, and you know what, it gets old. And so what we're really trying to do in Bonita is make that old Florida, quirky, art kind of funky history that we have be a draw to downtown, and we want to promote that. And so we want to make sure that that's maintained. So we do this through land use and planning. We also, over the past few years, in 2009, developed a local food systems approach. something I've personally been working on. We have policies in place to be able to allow for community gardens, for farmers markets. We were the first municipality within Lee County to allow backyard hens as a way to not only have education of where your food comes from, but also to supplement your grocery bills, and different things of that nature to really support not only the local food systems, but to bring some of the urban agricultural back into our suburban community. We have economic development incentives, we have the historical preservation, we have a preservation board that reviews any kind of the designated historical sites. We also want to try to maintain some of the history that we have downtown, so we're very active in that. The aesthetics and the architectural standards I talked about a little bit already. In 2015, we created a green building program. We actually incentivize developers and homeowners who want to come in and build green. So we do permit rebates and also marketing and an awards program. And I challenge anyone to come be the first person. Please, it'd be awesome. You would be the first green building, development, commercial building, home in Bonita, and it's a pretty exciting program. Again, we have our downtown improvements, and most recently been getting some news and recognition for the visioning study that we're doing along Bonita Beach Road, and the potential to direct that into not only a multimodal transportation system, but also to have it reflect to the land uses that it goes through and be unique in character, so it's not all the same. And Bonita Beach Road is our corridor to the city. It's something that we are trying to maintain, not only in aesthetics, but in uses. And we want to make sure that we do it right. So we brought some consultants in to make some recommendations, and that study will be presented next month to City Council, if you want to stay tuned for that. In the last couple of years, another initiative that we've really been doing is Complete Streets. We have a Complete Streets resolution that was adopted in 2014. Basically, it looks at multimodal transportation. If you ask yourself if you would allow your 8-year-old or your 80-year-old grandmother to cross an intersection safely, if that answer is no, there's a fundamental flaw in the way we're designing streets. So we are looking at how we can make those streets not only move volume, but to actually be more efficient to move all users. So pedestrians, cyclists, make sure they're ADA compliant, and that our children or our grandparents can walk safely and have enough time to cross that road. We signed up to be signed up for the Mayor's Challenge for Safer People, Safer Streets. We were the first one in Lee County to sign that challenge, and so that's been another framework that has helped us facilitate this Complete Streets resolution. And most recently, we contracted with another consultant to create a bicycle pedestrian master plan that would again tie in that connectivity that we're looking at. So how are we doing? We signed on for 2 years for this framework, the criteria, and in February we were certified gold as a green local government. So we were very excited about that. And it was just great accolades for us to show that yes, we are a green city, and we have a third-party verifier that said yes. But the challenge is now, we need to keep up those initiatives over the next 5 years. You have to recertify every 5 years. So we really have set the bar high, and we are going to have to maintain that, because in the next 5 years, when that's reviewed again, we will have to show that we are maintaining that gold level certification. So in continuation, basically, our mission statement is that we foster dynamic and sustainable environments with professionally provided, cost-effective public services. Again, we are a light government light, excuse me, so we don't have a huge staff. We do it with a very, very small staff, and we contract with a lot of consultants to make things happen, to keep our costs low. But we want to make sure that we do that to ensure that we maintain a vibrant place to live, work, recreate, and play, and provide the exceptional quality of life that we have prided ourselves in Bonita. We want to be a standout community of choice, and so by laying the foundation of all these programs, we hope to be able to be one of the healthiest communities in Lee County today, tomorrow, and in the future. So that's my very quick overview of what we've been doing, but I do some of the planning, the sustainability coordination for the city. I want to introduce Sean Gibbons. He is our environmental compliance officer, guru, extraordinaire. And then Jay Sweet is also a man of many hats, but he is a certified planner as well as a surveyor, and has been working very closely with Arlene on economic development and our Public Works Director, Matt Feeney, on the downtown improvements. So any questions that you may have, the three of us are happy to discuss them. So I'll open up the floor. Yes, go ahead.
You know, I just really want to applaud you, first of all, for what, Bonita has become and continues to do. 10 years ago, as a young professional, if you said, would you like to move to Bonita, I would have said, no way. But now, if you ask me that question today, I would say absolutely. It's really has shifted, and I think it's the future of our area. But, having said that, what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge to you? Because as this area does become more notable, there's people are moving to the area. These big box stores and businesses are going to want to continue as well. So, what is your biggest challenge on maintaining that gold certification over the next 5 years?
Well, I have two answers, and then I'm going to let Jay jump in on that as well, to talk a little bit about the policies that we have. We have a big box retail standards, actually, that address exactly that development. But when we're looking at, my biggest challenge as a planner and somebody who's looking to implement complete streets, multimodal, and connectivity, is the fact that our city is made up of 60% gated communities. So it's a challenge to get people not only out of those communities, but to want to connect throughout the city. So looking at the balance of what that's going to take with planning and getting people on board with that has been one of my challenges when you're looking at connectivity. Jay, if you could speak a little bit about some of the standards.
I think what's interesting, because that's such a dynamic question that you're asking, which is, how are you going to get businesses down and for them to be sustainable? The city's done a series of things that are in progress, and we've had a lot of inquiries that are going to handle this, and then I'll talk about a few other things. One of the things we did in our downtown is that during the boom, the city, when it was first incorporated, had the opportunity to acquire some mobile home parks and some other areas that weren't so nice, and they did that. And they got rid of them, and they built some beautiful parks. And when they did that, they shifted the synergy, the dynamic of what was happening downtown. Then the economic failure came, and it sort of sat there, and some of the things didn't get off the ground. And so you go back and you reevaluate. And what happened is the city said, you know what? We got several competing interests here that really are sustainability. One of the things is we have a nitrogen removal requirement for the Imperial River. It's impaired and nitrogen's come out of it. The existing downtown had a drainage system that functioned very well because the water just flowed to the river without any attenuation, without taking out any of the contaminants. It just flowed into the river. That's the way it was done when it was built way back when. So with the improvements that the city's doing downtown, several things. We have the first of only 2 permits issued in the state of Florida that allows the city to design an area, create the attenuation for drainage, and then assign the credits to the other properties around there. It's a new concept. We've got that permit. We're building the infrastructure. We just crossed another hurdle, South Florida, which they were starting to say to us, you have to build everything if you're going to build anything. We said, whoa, time out here. I got commitments to get development happening down here, redevelopment. And they've now agreed that we can certify portions of the system, and as long as the credits are appropriate, we can go forward. In doing that, a couple things happen. We define a core area, and we are handling all the drainage for that core area. So that allows us to incentivize development by saying, you come down here, and I'll let you build property line to property line. But if you do that, we've got to have architecture, we've got to have walkability, we've got to have streetscape. It has to meet certain criteria. And so we have one developer who has come and has site plan approval. He hasn't started, and rightfully so, because he's waiting for us to finish our improvements, because he doesn't want to be done until we're done. And that project's called Longitude. We're waiting for the final engineering to come in, a big project that's really going to, I think, change the dynamics downtown. One of the challenges that anybody who's done redevelopment is the first person in the door is either a saint or a fool. And that's because either it works or it doesn't. And to get that first person in the door to build that dynamic project is a challenge that I think we've got there. The other thing is I think there's a misconception about big boxes nowadays. I know Publix is one of the sponsors here. Publix has an urban Publix. They recognize that this is an opportunity for them, and because if they didn't, what happened? Trader Joe would come in. Okay? And so these national chains understand that an abbreviated store is important. Now, understand that that's a new dynamic for them, because in the typical strip malls, if you understand the economics of it, Publix goes in, Kohl's goes in, and they get a preferred rate from the developer, and all of those stores pay 3-4 times as much for rent on a square foot basis than the anchor does. And that's the reason sometimes you'll see Albertsons went out of business. We've had an empty Albertsons now for some time in Bonita. Everybody goes, the city wants you doing something. Well, there's a reason. Unless somebody's willing to pay them more, Albertsons will pay the rent on the building. So why would that person who owns the building fill it up? Because as soon as they fill it up, the lease is broken, unless they get someone to pay more. Okay? And so that becomes a dynamic that you have to overcome in redevelopment and get people to understand, because the average person driving by in a car doesn't understand that. So those are sort of dynamics that we have to do. The other thing that I think that is going to make our downtown so successful is that we've had a lot of insight from our council. And what I mean by that is staff, as we see that there's something in the code that doesn't quite work, we have gone to council, had discussions, and we've amended the code several times in our downtown, tweaks, a little here, a little there. And I think it really is part of the whole sustainability issue. How do if you ask yourself, how did we get to where we are today? Well, it's because of the manufacturing of the 50s, it made sense. And as people came back from World War II in the 40s, and the manufacturing boom, and you look at how the automobile and the roadway system, it encouraged a certain dynamic, and everybody responded. We're in a new phase now, and it's a matter of creating that dynamic and people responding, and they're there, and the businesses are there to do that. It's just a matter of us being able to be fluid, to make sure that we can respond, and I think that's really what sustainability is. To me, sustainability is a simple process. Be a good steward. It's really not more complicated than that, and we allow ourselves to get distracted by, well, this issue or this issue, when it's really about being good stewards in everything. And I think from our position, we're trying to be good stewards for the city, for the downtown. The environment makes a big difference. And when you can take an opportunity to correct a drainage problem, a pollution problem, and an economic problem and put it together, you have the blueprint for a successful plan. And that's where we're headed. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it takes a certain step. And one of the things, again, and it is about leadership, and it's leadership at every level. It's leadership at staff level, it's leadership at management level, it's leadership at political level. Lee County says, no, we don't believe in CRAs. The typical way of doing that. We don't believe in that. Well, how do you get the money? How do you go borrow the money to build this? And so we came up with a unique idea. We call it TIF Light. It's actually an interlocal agreement, but we did the math, we did the economics, we did the proposals, and we presented Lee County. We understand what it is about CRAs you don't like. We get it. You think they waste money on certain things and certain things that you don't think are appropriate. And you have the authority to say yes, no on CRA. So we get that, but here's what we're trying to accomplish. We came with a vision that was clear, a financial plan that was clear, and a timetable. And I think there's where a lot of plans fail, the timetable. We came with a timetable, and you know what? Through the leadership of the council, because let me tell you what, it took a lot of our council people going down there, arm twisted, and doing what they had to do. But through their leadership, we got that agreement, and now we have the money. Now we got the money, guess what? Things are happening. You go down there every 2 weeks, you'll see another section of road built. You'll see more palm trees being planted. You'll see some sidewalks going in. Anybody who's driven down there recently, I probably like, this is incredible. What are the businesses doing? Just make sure. Because they want to go down there and walk and shop. And they're coming. But we're still paving roads, we're still tearing up, putting some drainage in, but we're getting it done in increments. And that's another important thing about any plan like this. It's easy to tear everything up and for 3 years or something and it'd be done. But we're doing it in increments. And so there's this constant vision that's expanding. The other thing it's allowed us to do is that through our Parks and Recreation Department, I will brag, and I am used to some things on the East Coast where I grew up, in Delray and in Lake Worth, where they have these big events. Bonita has the most incredible organization for putting events downtown, like none other I've ever seen. And for a city its size, it's incredible. And we've been able to maintain those events while we're under construction. And I think that is going to will prove over the next 2 years to be the biggest asset that Bonita has done, because everybody who comes to those events is going to see the progress that's going on downtown. And success breeds more success. It's the nature of life. And I think that that's one of the things that's going to really make that a dynamic venture down there.
And for those of you who don't know what a TIF is, it's tax increment financing.
Sorry.
Sometimes we explain that.
And basically what that is that we said, here's the value of the property. If we make certain improvements, what can we do? And I went and did some analysis all the way back to the 40s and looked at the highs and lows, the recessions and so forth. And we did a projection, and we did I did a projection on what I think it is, and I did a projection on what there's no doubt in my mind it will be, which is a big difference. We took the no doubt in my mind what would be projection. And that was the basis that we went to Lee County. Fortunately for us, what I thought it was going to be even exceeded the last 2 years. So we're ahead of projection-wise, the value's going up. And it's amazing how the value, as soon as, and it didn't surprise me, but I don't surprise some people, as soon as the city announced they were going to do something, they bumped. As soon as they started having hearings on the design, they bumped a little more. As soon as everything was done, they went up. And I want to say up like 12% up, 10% up in 1 year. And so we've already seen values increase over 2 years, about 15 to 18% down there. And we're not even built yet. But that's the type of synergy. And everybody likes it. As a matter of fact, the developer who has a commitment to the one building, because it's an urban environment, he wanted to sort of look, he's building some green walls. And if you know what a green wall is, the wall's designed with basically cocoa mats where they plant plants in the wall. And his irrigation system, he's got it all designed to do that. And he actually has a tenant called TriFit, which is going to take one of his spaces to train triathlon athletes. Because Lee County, in particular, is such a big bicycle community that they saw that as an opportunity. And so he's actually niche marketed his entire building based upon the other activities they have in Bonita. If you guys start asking about Bonita, I get very excited about that.
We can just keep talking.
Yeah, I do have a question. And so 60% of 60% of the residents in Bonita live in communities. Another 40% spread out. Having wanted to relocate myself from Portland to the state, is Bonita doing to attract the medium income, the person who, makes it up living to live in these different places? But man, it's not enough to be the gated community for, the gated communities of the Bonita Springs, but don't want to be in areas that are questionable. It's a huge challenge.
Well, and actually, that's one of the things that we constantly been adjusting. In our downtown, if you have a 50-foot lot, you can build a single-family house on it. You can't build a duplex. But if you have two of them, you can build 3 townhouses. And so one of the things that we're constantly looking at is what is the building product that is marketing people are selling? Where are people's heads at on housing size, lot size? What are they trying to accomplish? And we have to continually do that because we have several older sections that are ripe for redevelopment. Okay, but it has to be ripe enough that someone will come in there and tear down some of the areas and we do it. A perfect example of something we've done within the past 24 months. We have some areas that, for whatever reason, it's cool to be a city that was formed in 2000. This things happen in the 60 days of Lee County. So we have areas in Lee County that police come and pull mobile home or lawn, scattered throughout the city. And then in '86, so they wouldn't get sued with some of the land use laws that were going in place, they zoned a mobile home. Well, when the city incorporated, we adopted the Lee County Code as started, it was first incorporated, and then we've been modifying it. And what happened, we prohibited permanent structures from being built on a property zone mobile home. But we would allow somebody under the code to build a garage as a permanent structure. Okay? It made no sense. We looked at it, we looked at a bunch of regulations, we did our research with council. Council saw fit. You can now buy one of those mobile homes in a not so nice area. Take it out, you're going to put some, I'll let you build a regular house there. Now some people think, wow, I can buy this, and mobile homes pay so much impact fee. House pays this much impact fee. Pay the mobile home off. I give you the credit for it in mobile homes. So now it's a double incentive to get people to redevelop in a better way, in an uplifting neighborhood. Now, what happens is not the gentrification that people get worried about, because it's not taking input from here to here, it's taking input from here to here. And what happens with that? You get pride input, what happens, neighborhood gets better. The other thing that the city has done that is a misnomer and a misbelief, a lot of people think, oh, this is a pride area. It wasn't one time. The city, after their incorporation, they have contracted with the Sheriff's Office. We pay for additional deputies and detectives. I will put our crime stats in our downtown against any place in Lee County. I will let my 12-year-old walk by himself without any fear. Okay? I walk down there, and I'm telling you that right now, our crime stats are fantastic. The vision that the council has had since they incorporated 2000 was to do certain things, and part of that was the community policing. It's working. It's working better than I have seen in almost any other place. And that's something that I don't think that we celebrate enough, because we sort of have to admit that it's really bad to show how good it is. But it is great. And that's actually having a lot of people start to look downtown. And because of that, and because of the downtown, the price of housing in some of those areas, people are buying and fixing them up. And it's...
Talk about the density of the
One of the things that makes a downtown work or not work, if you want people to walk, you've got to have feet in the street, I call it. And part of the problem with the suburban code is you'll have 4 units per acre or whatever. So one of the things that we have recently done in our code is we've addressed the need for additional density in the downtown. And what we've done, we've always had the opportunity for affordable housing, get additional density, or you can pay for additional density, not go to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Those options were always there. What we've recently done in our code, and we've had one developer in our downtown area. And I want you to have additional density, because I want people down there, I want to make it dense enough that it is more attractive to walk than to get your car and go places. And so I want buildings towards the road, I want them integrated into the commercial more density. So what we've come up with is that you can get additional density, and if you make certain public improvements that benefit the public. For instance, we have Oak Creek and Imperial River. If you provide kayak access, we'll evaluate that, and we have this matrix of what it's worth. But depending upon what it's worth to the city, we can apply a multiplier. So if you spend $1, and if the city thinks, you know, if we had to do that, it would cost us $3, we can give you a multiplier of 3 and give you a credit of $3 worth of purchase additional density. Other road improvements are public places, a variety of opportunities. And we've done it in that way to be evaluated because, and this is where I tell people I talk to, don't think that you're going to come in here for a statue and get credit. Because if I do that, everybody's going for a statue. It has to be consistent with the overall vision of downtown. If you're on the river, probably going to want something to do with water access. If you're in the middle of downtown, probably going to want something to do with shade in a park, and a rest area, and fountains, and something you can drink and rest. It has to be an overall comprehensive plan, and the way that we've written it, I think that it is that way. But the opportunities are there. So it's not a blanket guarantee, but the opportunity, and I think that incentivizes great development, not just good development, great development. And that's important because the most difficult thing for any people who have ever worked in a redevelopment area is the first thing that there are certain developers going to say, I see you need money. Time out. Yes, the city will give you credits and do certain things, but you need to have the vision that the city has, not just come in and build something cheap and go. And there's where it is important for a staff to understand and to have those ordinances that we can say no. And that's an important aspect in redevelopment, economic development, is knowing that you can say no, that you don't always have to say yes, because then you pull some bad stuff in there too. And I will say that to Bonita's credit, they have been very proactive, and they have said yes and they have said no, and I think that's where that dynamic and synergy can come. And I think, I'm prejudiced. I think the city has got great opportunities, and I don't think this idea of a big bright future is a slogan. I think that's a real concept. That's a real vision.
We're out of time. I want you guys to be able to get to your next location. I have some cards here that will direct you to our green website that has all of this information on it and links to different things within the city. You can see me, or you can also visit our table in the main room. We have them there also. So thank you very much for coming out.